Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. Okay, get ready because over the next few minutes, we're going to completely shatter almost everything you thought you knew about how electricity, light, and atoms actually work. Honestly, if you've ever flipped a light switch or just looked up at the stars and thought you had a pretty good handle on the physics behind it all, well, prepare for a major paradigm shift. So, it really all starts with one fundamental question. Why is the speed of light exactly 300 million meters per second? We've all been taught that this is the universe's ultimate speed limit, right? A fixed, hard-coded constant that just sort of is. But today, we're diving into a genuinely mind-bending theoretical framework proposed by independent theoretical physicist and mathematician Dr. Ahmad Rahan. His work suggests that the speed of light isn't just some random cosmic speed limit handed down from on high. It's actually something entirely different. 300 million meters per second. According to Dr. Rehan's research, this specific speed is actually an emergent property. It's the end result of a perfect continuous balancing act between two fundamental forces in our universe. It's not just a boundary, it's an active, highly dynamic ratio. So let's dive right into this and see exactly how this balancing act governs literally everything around us. All right, here's our roadmap for today. We'll start by rethinking the speed limit, then we'll introduce a concept called Faraday limbs. After that, we'll see how energy actually flows outside of wires, explore the universal speed constant, and finally, we'll wrap up with the Gaussian atomic model. Okay, let's jump straight into part one, rethinking the speed limit. Traditionally, we view electric and magnetic fields as being interdependent, generating each other as they travel, a concept brilliantly unified by James Clerk Maxwell. But this new framework offers a totally fresh reinterpretation. The speed of light, c, actually emerges as the ratio between the velocity of the electric component and the magnetic component. Think of it literally like a giant cosmic seesaw. The speed of light is the perfect balance point where these electric and magnetic velocities interact. In a true vacuum, they're perfectly matched. In other materials, one might dominate, but their interaction ratio, that is exactly what gives us the effective speed of light. Moving right along to part two, introducing Faraday limbs. To actually wrap our heads around how this cosmic seesaw functions in the real world, we need to pick up a critical piece of vocabulary from the source material, Faraday limbs. A Faraday limb is essentially a discrete segment in a circuit, or really any propagation medium, where either the electric velocity or the magnetic velocity takes the lead. Energy doesn't just flow in a boring, uniform stream. Instead, it propagates by jumping through a chain of these alternating limbs. It's kind of like a cosmic relay race. One segment is electric dominant, it hands the baton to the next, which is magnetic dominant, and so on and so forth, allowing the energy to travel through a continuous, high-speed handoff. Which brings us to part three, energy flows outside wires. This is where things get really wild. Mythbuster time. The traditional view tells us that electrical energy flows inside wires as electrons drift along. But here's the crazy reality. Those electrons inside the wire, they are moving at a snail's pace. We're talking literally around a millimeter per second. The emergent view, which is actually supported by the Poynting vector from Maxwell's equations, shows that the real electrical energy rushes through the invisible space surrounding the wire. The wire itself is just acting as a guide for the electromagnetic fields on the outside. This is a massive, fascinating application of the Faraday limb theory that completely changes how we should view the power cords plugged into our walls right now. Let's walk through how this actually builds a complete circuit using our new vocabulary. Step one is the source limb. Like a simple battery, this is electric dominant, creating an outward field. Step two is the conductor limb, the actual wire. This part is magnetic dominant, guiding the energy that's flowing in the empty space around it. And finally, step three is the load limb, like a light bulb or a resistor, which switches right back to electric dominant as the energy converges inward to be used. The whole circuit is just a perfect chain of alternating Faraday limbs. All right, zooming out for part four, the universal speed constant. Taking this framework from the wires in your house all the way out into the vast vacuum of space, consider the sheer consistency here. Whether you're dealing with low-energy radio waves, medium-energy visible light, or incredibly intense, high-energy gamma rays, the propagation speed is exactly the same, 3 × 10 to the 8th meters per second. Dr. Rehan's framework explains that as photon energy scales up, the electric and magnetic components scale perfectly proportionally. Because they both increase by the exact same factor, the ratio, that cosmic seesaw we talked about earlier, remains locked, completely unchanged at c. So what this really means is that out in the vacuum of space, this ratio prevents dispersion. Because the electric and magnetic limits balance out perfectly without any material interference, waves simply don't separate based on their frequency. It's absolutely mind-blowing when you think about it. This invariant ratio is the exact reason why the high-frequency blue light and the lower-frequency red light from a supernova explosion can travel for millions of years and still hit our telescope lenses at the exact same instant. And finally, let's zoom all the way down for part 5, the Gaussian atomic model. Dropping down to the deepest microscopic level, Dr. Rayhan proposes that particles act as Gaussian ball-like surfaces, essentially dynamic three-dimensional fields. Now, to keep an atom stable, an electron and a proton have to maintain equal momentum. But because the proton is a heavyweight, roughly 1,836 times heavier, that tiny electron has to absolutely fly to balance it out. This means electrons in the outer shields, the valence electrons, must move at near light speed. This creates incredibly robust, highly dynamic electromagnetic components, effectively forming microscopic Faraday lemmas that allow atoms to interact, bond, and emit light. Meanwhile, the inner orbits have much slower velocities and weaker fields. And that right there brings us to this incredibly beautiful synthesis. As the paper notes, this framework gives us a truly holistic picture. It perfectly ties the whole shebang together, connecting the macroscopic, like that invisible energy flowing outside the wire powering your computer, with the quantum dynamics of an atom's outer electron shield. And standing right in the center of all of it, acting as the universal regulator of that electric and magnetic interplay, is c, the speed of light. Which leaves us with one final, very provocative thought. If the speed of light isn't just a static speed limit, but is actually an emergent dynamic ratio born for the interplay of electric and magnetic fields, what other fundamental laws of our universe are just waiting to be entirely rewritten? Keep asking questions, keep looking past the surface, and thank you so much for joining me on today's Explainer.